Welcome to another episode of COVID-19 Franchise Leaders Respond. I'm your host, Red Boswell, president of the IFPG. We're joined today by Jesse Johnstone. Jesse is the president and partner over at Fibrenew. If you're not familiar with Fibrenew, you're going to get familiar shortly. Jesse, thank you. Welcome to the call today.
Well, thanks for doing this, Red. I think this is a fantastic thing you're doing, and it just brings the franchise community even closer together. So thank you.
Amen. Absolutely. Our tagline that's really appropriate for this world we're going through is franchising stronger together. And this is just part of what we're doing, IFPG, but the whole franchise community rallying together, sharing best practices. How can we all win, survive, maybe thrive, but just strengthen each other together? There's no better time to be in franchising than right now.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
So first and foremost, how are you and your family holding out through this?
Well, we're doing okay. It's been a trying time. The kids are home from school, so the homeschooling routine is definitely underway. Partner Kelly's at home as well. She's actually in HR, so she's going through a lot of hoops right now in dealing with all this.
Oh, you froze.
Healthy, we're safe, we're at home, and that's just the way it is right now. Oh, okay. Where did I freeze on you?
I think we got the message. That you're surviving at home together, and your wife in HR. So, and remind us, where's home?
We are in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So we're in the northern border, but we've got locations all over the U.S., all over Canada, but operations are in Calgary.
Got it. What about, help us understand, to put it in perspective, Fibrenew, size, history, and what you do.
Sure. So on the history side of things, the company was actually formed in 85. So it dates back to 85. And then we started franchising in 87. And that's an important year because that's when there was a major financial catastrophe that happened. So our roots in franchising actually happened during an economic recession. And then we grew from there. And we've actually, never had every single year since 87 when we started franchising. So every up and down of the economy we've weathered and have grown through it all. In terms of what we do, our basic service is leather, plastic, and vinyl repair. So as an analogy, if you've ever had maybe a pet at home, so if you've had a cat or a dog use your sofa as a scratching post, I'm sure many watchers or listeners would have that happen at one point in time. We can go in, if it's on the leather furniture, actually restore that piece of damage on that couch. So rather than having to replace the whole couch or maybe reupholstering that section of the sofa, our technicians will go into a customer's home in a mobile service, offer the restoration as an alternative to replacement right then and there, wherever the piece may be. So we do that in residential. We do that for automotive. So both for private owners of vehicles and for a lot of dealerships as well, fleet vehicle companies.
Interesting.
We do a lot of work in medical. Yeah, we do a lot of work in medical as well. So if you've ever been in maybe your doctor's clinic or dental office or whatever, and you've seen a tear or a rip in the vinyl on a chair or a bed, we can go in and actually offer a service that would restore that to prolong the life of that piece of vinyl. We do a lot of work in aviation, marine. We do a lot of work in the RV industry. Really, almost every corner of the industry where we see leather, plastic, and vinyl, you'll find Fibrenew offering services.
Okay, so we're understanding a little bit about what the franchisees do. To me, it sounds like this is a job replacement. I imagine the franchisee is the one doing the work. Can you confirm that as well as the size of the organization?
Sure. So we do have a lot of owner operators, and it is a mobile business. So, it's the owner operator in their vehicle conducting their work. We do have a small army of owners who do have technicians. So we've got some franchise owners who bring on maybe a technician to specialize in a particular industry while they look after other areas of the business. So we're seeing actually more and more growth with that, Red. We're seeing more and more technicians come into the business. But by and large, you are correct. This is an owner-operator model. And we currently have 254 active franchises. We have four coming in for training. We just had another one confirm on Friday. So we have 4 waiting in the wings coming in for training. So we'll be at 258 in a matter of weeks.
So let's go to that topic then. Training. You're
Sure.
training new franchisees. Is this a new world for you? You can do it all virtual, or are they actually coming in?
No, we have elected to do it virtually. So this is going to be new ground for us. But we're at a point, actually, I'm going to go back a few weeks because in mid-March, when this situation we're in right now really started to take hold, we had a class going on. So we had 6 franchise partners in for training at the moment that stay-at-home orders were being issued from, state and provincial levels. And they're here for training thinking, oh my gosh, what's happening at home? What's the scenario going to be when I finish training and I travel home, etc. They were absolute champs through it. They had extremely positive attitudes. They went home fully trained. They're ready to get their business going. And thankfully, they've actually had inbound inquiries since being home over the past couple of weeks or so. So they're starting to see, the work is going to be there for them, even though things are slower right now. But while that was happening, we had 3 potential franchise partners going through the process and said, I want to do this. We gave them the green light. They said, let's do it. Papers were signed, money was transferred, and then further stay-at-home orders were issued to the point that travel wasn't even recommended. So you have to appreciate these people had made a commitment to us. They'd made a huge lifestyle change in starting their own business, deciding to take that leap. We didn't want to slow that process down. So we had to adapt. We said, okay, how do we pivot? How do we make this happen for them and do it safely, and also within the recommendations of government bodies. So we've got the technology in place as we're doing right now. Zoom is a wonderful technology. And so we actually have a full Zoom rig with professional cameras. We have 2 of them inside of our business. So we've repurposed those. We've set them up in our training center. So we're going to have 2 different angles coming down that the trainees will be able to tune into. And we're going to instruct for a certain period of time. Pause. Let's go through questions. Let's review your work. Instruct. Pause. Let's go through and review where you're at. So
How long will this take? Is this a half day? Is this 5 days? What?
So we're going to stick to our regular schedule, which is 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
So it's 10 days of training to learn, to learn the basics, or basically to get started as a fiber crafts.
I'm just throwing out ideas here. I'm trying to understand your model. Are you mailing them samples that they can practice on while they're in the? Yeah.
We are. Great question. So what normally happens is they come for training. They are at our training center. So they use product and tools that we supply. Toward the end of their 2 weeks of training is when our warehouse is triggered to say, okay, it's time to ship them product. So when they get home, all of their stuff is there to start the business. So what we have to do now is ship their startup kit in advance to training. So they have everything on premise. And then our training staff are making practice items that we're going to ship them with their startup kit. So they'll have pieces with them on hand that they're going to follow along on screen with our instructors. They also get an iPad just by default with their startup kit with Fibrenew. So that'll be the tool that we'll use Zoom with. Set it up on a stand so they can easily maneuver it and go from there. So it's going to be an adventure. It's something new, something very unique. But all of the trainees in May are into it and they understand why we're doing it. And they've accepted that, okay, this is what we have to do. So away we go.
Have they, in the past, before this crazy time, have you required anybody, or is there any reason why someone would have a webcam?
Well, not for the training. We just didn't have to go down that road. I mean, this is where, we just have to figure out ways of doing it differently. We've always conducted live training 2 weeks in person.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it's been. Okay. And I think that raises an interesting topic, Red, that on the other side of this, we're already looking at our support systems and saying, we're probably going to see further changes in the way that we offer support through what we're going through right now. So, for example, we're now holding 3. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, you were about to give an example. I'm sorry.
Well, another example of how we're utilizing technology is we had 4 dates scheduled. The first one being April 30th, the second one June 4th, September 10th, and October 15th for our annual continued education or seminar classes. So obviously the April 30th one was unrealistic. We don't know what's going to happen in June. And then when people get back to work in the summer and fall, we suspected the last thing they're going to want to do is take a pause to travel to do a seminar. They're going to want to get back to work. So we said, okay, by and large, we have franchise partners at home and or not working as much in the field. Let's take advantage of that scenario. And we are also conducting our entire year's worth of seminars the week of April 20th, again through Zoom. So every single day, April 20th through April 24th, Monday through Friday, franchisees can tune in as we're doing now, and we're going to show them the new products we've developed and are releasing this spring. We're going to refine some, techniques and practices and procedures. And again, just pivot, figure it out, and make it happen.
Now, the franchise, I'm sure not everybody's completely closed down. Are you recording them, making them available later for them to watch again, or for the first time?
We will record a couple of those days. I don't think we'll record all 5 days, but we will make that content, we'll repurpose it again down the road. So that's going to be unique too. And everybody seems to get it. They understand it. And there's actually a level of excitement, to be honest, Red, because it's like just another example of taking advantage of the time we have right now to be together on screen.
Yeah.
And that's part of what may come out as a change in result of this is, in future years, how do we offer training? How do we offer support? What are some things we can do to maybe be more efficient and be more real time? And I mean, what you and I are doing right now is, I think, an example.
Amen, for sure.
Yeah.
So what about the current franchisees? How have they been impacted? You gave a bunch of great examples of their different client base or different customers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those, doctor's offices, dentist offices, not a whole lot of folks in them right now. So are they getting more business because of the office is clear, you can come in safely, do it now while we're closed for shop, or maybe the airline, some of the planes aren't running, so you can come in and do it, nobody's around, or how is that being impacted?
Great question. It's a little scattered. There's no real, true rhyme or reason across the board. For instance, in Memphis, our franchise partner in Memphis has been doing a lot of medical work. So just out of necessity, where they need beds and tables in service. So he's been able to offer our restoration services to keep those beds in play. In other areas of the country where restaurants are closed down, we do a lot of work for restaurant clientele. Some managers and owners of restaurants are saying, since we're closed anyway, can you come in and restore these bench seats or these chairs or stools while we have the opportunity, and it's easy to do. In other areas of the country where automotive services are still deemed essential, we do work in automotive. So it really seems to vary in which area of the country we're talking about. We have some franchise partners who have just elected to, shut down for the time being and just out of personal safety reasons, and we have to respect that. They are independent businesses, so we can't really dictate what they can or cannot do. We've just always maintained, be safe, do what you feel comfortable with. And, to a certain degree, do what you can, but just do what you can, and do it safely at the same time. So
a few months ago, I called up one of your franchisees, had him,
really?
Had some, a rip in the middle of my car seat, and he had me take some pictures. I had a little blemish on the dash, took pictures, sent them to him. And then ultimately he's able to come out. And I guess I could have done it without meeting him. I could just unlock the door from the house or the office and say, go after it. And in fact, today he probably would have said, hey, do you have Zoom on your phone? And instead of pictures, let's do video.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of virtual quotes, actually. So, people are at home and they have more time on their hands. They're looking at their sofa or thinking about their driver's seat in their car or their passenger seat car and saying, this is maybe a time to figure out, how am I going to restore this? We're still reaching out to our franchisees, but we're saying, if we can't do work right now, I still want to put you in the calendar for a future date. We can take care of you. Let's do a Skype or Zoom or FaceTime session together and take a look at what we're dealing with and figure it out. So that's happening
Jesse,
as well.
So we hit earlier on FranDev and what folks have been doing in the process. You've had 3 franchise awarded in the last month or so. What about the FranDev pipeline of new leads? I've heard answers all over the map from franchisors seeing the best lead flow they've ever had. I've had some say it's gone to a trickle. Most have said it's gone down just a hair, but some of the lower investment job replacements, man in a truck like you, have actually seen a spike because so many folks are sitting at home. They've lost their job. They've been furloughed. Their hours are cut, and they are frankly pretty chapped off and scared. Where do y'all fall in that process or in that flow of new leads?
I would say by and large, Red, across the board, our lead flow has maintained, if not seen a slight uptick. And so that's really interesting because we saw this back in 08, 09, where we had a lot of people lose their jobs. They were looking for a different source of income. They were getting packaged out. So they had to do something. We ended up having a lot of conversations with people who maybe had it in the back of their mind, you know, starting a business someday. So we're starting to have those similar type conversations again, where, you know, I'm kind of in franchise homework mode. You know, I'm exploring my options, and they're reaching out. So if anything, we haven't seen a dip. I would actually say that there's, you know, like I said, maintaining, if not a slight uptick for now.
Well, your franchise development VP, Matt, is fantastic. You got a real winner there. Kudos to you for snagging him.
Thanks.
You know, on the topic of lead flow, we've seen that as job market goes down, you know, unemployment goes up, franchising, especially in your space, tends to go up and up in a balanced fashion. You know, the last 5 years, franchisors' biggest problem, our biggest obstacle to awarding great franchises has been that job market, because so many people are getting wonderful jobs and not losing their jobs. I just saw a chart today that showed 08, 9, and 10, and we went through that as franchisors, and the nightmare that was, except the FranDev space. FranDev interest went up, and now loans weren't there. We're getting loans today. Home equity wasn't there. We've got home equity today, so a much different market. And the biggest difference on that chart was the unemployment applications. I mean, if you think of middle of 09, it was like, oh my gosh, the sky's falling with unemployment. Went sky high. You know, in the last week and a half or so, 2 weeks, I guess, it is 10 times what we saw in a general week or two in the middle of 09. So I think the tidal wave is about to hit us.
I think so too. I think there are similarities to what we saw, you know, 12 years ago or so, 11 years ago. I think one thing with the jobless rates that we have to consider is that those aren't permanent unemployment situations, right? So, I mean, you look at hospitality alone, all the people that have been temporarily laid off or furloughed, by and large, should have jobs to come back to in some way, shape, or form. Not all of them, of course, but if it is 10 million people right now, you know, are 5 or 6 million going to have their jobs back in a few weeks. So we have to consider that. But we also have seen that a lot of existing jobs that were here a month ago won't be there to go back to, unfortunately. And that's really sad. Not to sound opportunistic on the franchise side, but this is where franchising shines. And this is where we can provide a business and a source of income for people who are into it and you know, have been curious about business ownership anyhow. So we remain optimistic that, you know, we'll come out of this and we'll be able to help a lot of people out on the other side. That's the way we look at it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. We're using the hashtag franchising stronger together, and we're seeing the strength of numbers, the strength of the support, the guidance, the financial guidance, as so many franchisees need help navigating through the loans and the opportunities, the forgiving of loans, the delaying of payback. So many opportunities out there, and if you're a mom and pop trying to navigate this on your own, it ain't quite as easy as having the support team like a Fibrenew. So Jesse, as we wrap up, any additional, you had some cool stories there of how franchisees are going after a new market, or really, you know, the medical story you gave. Any other stories or any other advice you have for franchisors trying to navigate these new waters?
I've never one to offer advice, but I can speak to what we have been doing with our franchise partners. And a lot of that comes down to communication. We've been holding 3 times a week. We call them huddle calls, where we all get together on screen like this. And I mean, we have upwards to, you know, 40, 50 people at a time. throughout the week joining. So staying in front of our franchise partners, talking about what we can do right now, guiding them through those financial assistance programs that the governments have rolled out, guiding them on the timing of application, guiding them on what to do. I mean, we have some franchise partners saying, I still have customers begging me to do work and I'm not necessarily comfortable. What do you think we should do? And we're here to guide them through that process and basically be an ear and step them through it. We are, still developing products. We're still shipping products. We're trying to maintain business as usual. And I think that that's really important. I don't think this is the time to just completely shut our doors. You have to maintain some sort of forward motion. And that's what we're focused on right now, and just being in step with our franchise partners to get them through this time. And the thing that I've been looking forward to, Red, down the line is when, we meet at IFA and we can talk back to that time in the spring of 2020 and say, remember when, and the lessons learned. And that's what I'm focused on right now and guiding our franchise partners on the same train of thought.
Jesse, you're so right. About a year and a half ago, I was speaking on a panel at one of the wonderful franchise conferences we all love to go to, and a franchisor, multi-unit franchisor, multi-brand franchisor shared something that stuck with me. He said, guys, this is the good old days. We are in the good old days. We're going to look back and say that in 2000, I guess it was maybe 18 or 19, those are some fantastic times. Today, for the most part, we ain't in such a good old days. We're in a surreal, weird COVID days. And we're going to get it through. We're getting through it together, doing cool stuff like this to support one another. I wish I had something like this back in 08, 09, 010, when I felt like I was on an island. I didn't have the lending. I didn't have the guidance. I didn't have the incredible mentors to lean on, even if they're just virtual stranger mentors. Didn't have it near to this capacity. Certainly didn't have the lending. Yeah, these are frustrating times, and yet times where we're seeing great franchisors pivot, support, guide, and really are going to resurrect from this stronger than ever.
I totally agree. And we've actually seen that with a number of our franchise partners where they're taking this time to retool their own businesses, where they're saying, okay, let's revisit my business plan. Let's look at my marketing plan. Let's, what's it going to take to get into other markets that I may not be currently working in. So I think you're right that there's going to be this sense of strength on the other side of this, and this strength of resiliency that we wouldn't have had otherwise if we didn't go through this. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that as well, and the shape that takes, and just seeing it play out, to be honest.
Excellent. Well, we're all looking forward to getting back at least on the road and seeing some great friends in person rather than just online. Give a real hug. Thank you, Jesse. Jesse Johnstone, president of Fibrenew. You've been listening to COVID-19 Franchise Leaders Respond with Red Boswell of IFPG. Thanks again.